Do you want to play with cool AI stuff on your computer, even if you're not a coding wizard? You can actually run free using open source AI programs, LLMs, right on your machine. It's like having a mini AI lab at home, no coding required. LM Studio is the simplest way to use local open source large language models. You can get started without knowing any coding at all. It's really easy to use and has a beautiful interface. They've added a bunch of new features that we'll discuss today. The latest feature they've added lets you run multiple models at the same time, and it's really simple. We'll show you how to do it. Also, if you haven't already, subscribe to my newsletter for updates on AI news. You can download LM Studio on their website for Mac, Windows or Linux. Just choose your operating system, download it and you're good to go. LM Studio is great for beginners in AI because it makes everything so easy. For example, here we have the latest version of Mistral. You can see details like the numbers of likes, downloads and when it was published about 97 days ago. Now, on the right side, here's the really cool part. It can actually estimate if one of the smaller versions of the model will fit onto your computer based on your computer specs. Many people ask me how to know if a model will work well on their computer, and this feature makes it easy. For example, it might say, likely is too far for this machine, or full GPU offload possible, which is the best option. LM Studio has improved a lot and now includes lots of helpful documentation right in the app, making it super easy to use. You can hover over different parts to see more info like quantization options. So it's like a platform where you can test different models. At the top you can choose a model like Gemma. We've picked the 2 billion parameter version since it's small. Once selected, it loads up the model. It usually picks the right settings automatically, but you can adjust them if needed. Then you can try it out. For example, we asked it to tell me a joke and it replied very quickly. On the right side there are some new features. One is branch conversation, which lets you copy and start a new chat from a specific message. It's handy for testing and quality assurance. You can copy, edit or delete messages. Also, you can regenerate responses by clicking a button. If a response is too long for your screen, you can click continue to see more at the bottom. We received a lot of useful information like the time it takes for the first token to appear, the speed at 20 tokens per second, the number of CPU threads and GPU layers. On the right side there are more settings you can explore, each with detailed descriptions. You can also find advanced configurations. In the hardware settings, we use Apple Metal support. That should make the model run faster after reloading. Last time we ran it with Apple Metal support, now we will max out the layers. Previously, it was running at 20 tokens per second. Let's regenerate it now. Wow, so it's now running at 73 tokens per second. Using their built-in hardware accelerator really boosts the speed. We encourage you to try out different settings. Now, onto their playground feature. It allows you to load multiple models simultaneously, something Olma did well before, and now LM Studio offers it. We have two models here, Gemma and Mistral. Before we load them, we want to show you one last thing. When selecting a model, you will see its name, which is used to identify it in the API. Instead of a verbose name like Gemma 2 billion parameters, we can simplify it to just Gemma, or Gemma 1 for different versions. It's cleaner that way. You can also select your preset here, but it usually detects it automatically. Now we will reload the two models, Gemma and Mistral. Gemma loads quickly because it's a 2 billion parameter model, while Mistral takes a bit longer as it's a 7 billion parameter model. Both will be loaded into memory simultaneously, and you can see the RAM usage here, which is helpful. Now that both models are loaded, we are using about 7GB of the 32GB available. Technically, we could load between 5 and 10 Gemma models at the same time and let them work together. You can see that if we have multiple models collaborating, you can get higher quality outputs from each. We will talk about that in another video soon. You can add your custom instructions if needed. Another new feature they offer is JSON mode. If you always want the model to output JSON, for example because you're building an application powered by them, you can enable JSON mode here. On the right side is where we can test everything out. Enabling JSON mode only helps if the model itself is good at outputting JSON. LM Studio can do so much with it. However, we have found it to be pretty good. Before we show you anything else, let me demonstrate this. On the right hand side we have our chat interface. We're going to turn JSON mode off for now, just to show you how it works. So we'll click start and it will do it sequentially. First it starts with Gemma and then it went to Mistral. Here's the joke, what do you call a boomerang that won't come back? A stick. And why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make everything up. One thing we really like is that as you hover over it, it highlights which model you're using over here as well, and vice versa. We can also see here that the model is running at 78 tokens per second for Gemma and 35 tokens per second for Mistral. But now we want to show it to you with Jason turned on. So we turn Jason on and hit send again. It's going to do its best, but as you could see, it didn't really work out all that well. What we found works even better, and want to thank the founder of LM Studio for telling me about this, is simply in the prompt describing that you want Jason. For example, tell me a joke, make sure you output Jason, then I'll hit send again. Now this is a little better. The Jason is different in both of them in terms of structure that they're using. So here we have setup and punchline. Here we have joke, and then within the joke, setup and punchline. But we can actually specify what we want. So we will say on the top level of Jason should be joke, and then the setup and punchline are elements within that joke. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so Mistral got that right, but Gemma didn't. Not super surprised there. We have played around with this, and we've gotten both to do pretty darn well. Obviously, just play around with the prompts, that's not the point of what we're showing you right now. Another setting that's really cool is this right here. They not only allow you to run these models at the same time in a serialized way, one after another, but you can also run them at the same time. If you have a powerful enough computer, you can actually do it. So let's test that out. This is a little bit dangerous, so if you have a lower end machine, we'd not recommend doing it. So we're going to deselect Disable Sequential Sending, and let's try again. Alright, so there we go. Still pretty fast, and they both run at exactly the same time. We absolutely love it, but we don't really have a need for that right now, so we're going to turn that back on. Now the next thing we want to show you is throttling. With throttling, what the LM Studio team have found is that if you have too many models loaded up, and for example you want to run them all in parallel, they start to get really aggressive against your CPU. And if you want to prevent any kind of CPU lag, you use this throttle right here. So you can throttle from 0, which basically means there's not going to be any throttling at all the way up to 100%, which means there'll be a lot of throttling. Obviously, that will slow down computation, but it's better than having a bunch of lag on your machine, so it is by default set to 50%. LM Studio is a cool collaboration with AutoGen, another fantastic agent framework built into it now. You can actually say the API key is LM Studio, and you could specify the model that you want to use per agent. You can power different agents using different models, all in parallel just like this. So as you're setting up your model right here, you have your OpenAI API base. You just plug in localhost, and for the model name, you simply put the model name. This is all standardized at this point. So just the same way in Crew AI, you have different agents powered by different models. If you like this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.